My sergeant told me, "Hey guy, if you want to defect, try to escape. I will give you transportation money."
Almost no one joins the army willingly. Even those who support the military don't want to join.
Reports of forced recruitment in Bago and Ayeyarwady in the last few months have highlighted the regime's apparent troop shortage problem. But as fast as they recruit, the junta is also losing people through surrenders, conflict casualties and defections. This week's stories from two men who were forced into the army suggest that morale is at new lows. Hello and welcome to Do Athan, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Fondation Hirondelle. This episode is produced by a Frontier Myanmar journalist. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors.
It was early in the morning, around 6 a.m. I was drinking tea at a tea shop, and when I left, the men at the checkpoint saw me with a backpack. So they checked my backpack and found a screwdriver. They arrested me with a 19C charge. They asked me if I would join the army or get sent to jail. I told them I don't want to go to jail, and I would join the military instead.
Min Htet is in his 20s. He was working as a labourer in Yangon when he was arrested for carrying a screwdriver. He then spent more than 2 years serving in the military against his will. Ko Nyi was given no reason for his arrest. He was picked up by a military truck as he was going home one evening in Bago region. He was only 18 at the time, small and thin. He was taken straight to the military recruitment centre and strong-armed into joining the army.
I was threatened that if I tried to go home, I would be sold off to a fishing boat. No one was able to go home. If they tried, they got punched. No one. After seeing their situation, I couldn't say anything.
Both men escaped, but more about that part of the story later. Forced recruitment by the Myanmar army existed before the military coup, but reports suggest it has increased since then, although the regime denies this. Captain Tet Myat, a prominent military defector, says the military junta's need for new recruits is greater than ever.
Though people talk about a large force of 400,000 to 500,000, the actual number on the ground has been decreasing every day. Almost no one joins the army willingly. Even those who support the military don't want to join. Nobody wants to choose death. They have no other choice than this forced recruitment.
Article 4 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that no one shall be held in slavery. Modern slavery is defined as the coercion of individuals without their consent. In recent weeks, there have been many reports of villagers in Bago region being forcibly recruited for militia duty. Pro-military militias have been formed in many places, ostensibly to guard villages against resistance attacks. But they can also be called on to serve at the front line. Phoe Phyu is a farmer in his 40s and a popular guy in his village in Bago region. He used to be the village leader. In December last year, the township administrator ordered villagers to form militias of 30 men for every 100 villagers. The current village leader asked him to help form a militia. They were told that if they refused, their village would be burned down. This is no empty threat. Several villages in Bago region have been burned down for this reason. One way out might have been bribery.
I saw people in neighbouring villages trying to deal with the situation using money, but for us, we're not well off. Most of us are farmers and labourers, and whatever we earn in a day goes straight into our daily expenses.
Phoe Phyu lived in a comfortable house with his family, but he also didn't have a lot of spare cash. Despite the risks, he refused to support forming a militia. He's now living in a bamboo hut in a border region.
I told them that I couldn't form a village militia. It wouldn't be possible for our village. Since we didn't form one, they thought that I didn't support them, and it became dangerous for me. SAC members tried to arrest me, so I fled from my village to here.
The forced recruitment of militias in Bago is being seen by analysts as a desperate move by a military regime which is increasingly on the back foot. The resistance has made some great territorial gains in recent months, and various reports suggest that since the coup, the military has been unable to recruit people by the normal routes. Which brings us back to young Ko Nyi, arrested for no reason. He barely survived months of brutal military training.
I kept thinking about going home during those 25 weeks of training. Sometimes I would cry to myself thinking about it. Some people cried and tried to escape, but mostly got caught again. We were told to beat them up, 1 strike each. The trainers and sergeants alike told the trainees to beat them. If we don't, we would get beaten up.
But here's the curious part. While the trainers were cruel, they also gave the recruits hope.
Trainers told us that we'd be caught if we defected during training, but that it might be possible when we get to the battalion.
Min Htet ended up fighting in Karen State, and he also found a surprising turn of events. A corporal and a sergeant actually offered to help him escape.
They had tried to run away themselves, because they didn't want to be soldiers anymore. But they were arrested. My sergeant told me, "Hey guy, if you want to defect, try to escape. I will give you transportation money."
These stories paint a picture of an army whose morale is at rock bottom. They're losing territory. They're finding it difficult to recruit people into the army or into local militias. And inside the army, there are senior officers helping their soldiers escape, or trying to escape, or turning a blind eye to defections. Ko Nyi also ended up serving in Karen State. Both men found their way into Karen National Union territory about 3 months ago and were welcomed. For now, at least, they're safe. But Ko Nyi's forced recruitment has caused devastation to his family. In his family of 8, he was the only son, and he was the main breadwinner after his father became chronically ill. When he was forced to join the military, things went from bad to worse.
My dad passed away after I was recruited. My younger siblings had no jobs, and they had to sell the house to pay for Dad's medical fees and debts. I couldn't help with anything since I was in the army.
As for Min Htet, he's living in a border region, sharing a small, dark, dank room with 4 other military defectors. But he says it's still much better than where he was.
Here, it is very different. There, if we wanted to do something, we were afraid. They hit or punched me when I made a mistake there. Here, if I do something wrong, no one swears at or scolds me.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Doathan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcast via the Doathan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes and Spotify. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.